Episode
13.
There we go.
Round 2. We had a technical error, which luckily I spotted pretty much straight away.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd have been sat here chatting and then
Then realising nothing was recorded.
None of it would have happened.
How have you been?
How have I been? I've been. Oh, that was quite good though. We had a little chat about numbers.
Yeah.
It might be in there still.
Possibly.
That's fine. We've missed the moment now.
Yeah. can't recreate that one.
But I'm telling you now, it was comedy gold. How am I? I'm all right. Thank you. I've had my birthday on Sunday.
33 this year.
33. We've literally already done all of this. So John knows all the answers and I know all the answers to all the questions. Well, we got to about here anyway, so
yeah.
Not far. Anyway, yeah, I had my birthday, turned 33 on Sunday, and which was nice. Went out for Sunday roast with my parents who came over. That was good. And we just had a generally relaxed day.
Nice.
And then Catherine's birthday was yesterday. We had a kind of a joint birthday thing. We went to a spa, had a entire spa day, which was good. So did our best to be nice and relaxed and whatever.
I've never been to a spa.
You've never been to a spa?
No.
I think you'd like it.
Just relaxing, doing nothing, sat by the pool, massages.
Exactly.
Sounds like heaven.
Yeah, it took Catherine a while to switch off.
Yeah.
Like until lunchtime. But she managed to relax eventually. Whereas I'm quite good at just
switching off
the old computer and just
chilling out.
So that was good, and feeling all right now. Back to work today and just doing this in between worky bits. Percentage wise, it's going to get really old now. I'm kind of always hovering around an 80.
It's not changing.
No, my neck's a bit tweaky at the minute. Got a stiff neck, which I don't know is from sleeping weirdly, jiu-jitsu. Normally it's a combination of the two.
And you start getting regular massages. I'm finding it's helping my body quite a lot.
That's true. Do some of the maintenance work. Yeah, so I don't stretch enough. I don't do enough recovery work really. So maybe I should start doing a bit more.
I don't do any recovery apart from massages once a month.
I think the older we get, the more we'll really need to do that.
When our body's really broken, then we're like, let's start now.
Yeah. So generally I'm fine. Thank you. How are you?
Pretty good. Yeah. Tired. Yeah.
You're always tired.
Because I think I just keep trying to do too much. And then I'll just swamp myself. But it was a long weekend and come back to work. What day are we on? Friday. Oh, well, I've been to work for the whole week now. But yeah, it's been pretty good.
You're still alive though?
Yes,
because last week you were off to meet a girl
in London.
Yeah, and you didn't get kidnapped.
Nope.
You didn't. She didn't make you do any drugs, smuggling, or anything like that.
Nope.
So you went to London. Did you have a good time in London?
I didn't get to London. Well, I was meant to go to London Friday night, but I didn't go. I didn't get there till about 11 p.m. on Saturday.
Why?
Because so her flight got cancelled. Well, it got delayed.
Oh, is that because of all the storms?
Yeah, and then it got cancelled. So I was sat up here with my mate James, who does van conversions, and we just sat chatting. And I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll go pick her up.
So you went to pick her up?
Yeah.
From Scotland?
Edinburgh, in Scotland, yeah.
Did she ask you to do that?
No.
Or did you just go out of your way and do it?
I just went out of my way. I said to her, like,
did you tell her you were doing it?
Yeah.
All right. So you didn't just go up there and be like, I'm here. No. I said to her, like, because we had a tour booked for Saturday for like 8:30 in London. I was just like, do you want me to just come collect you? And we should be able to still make the tour. So she was like, oh no, that's quite far. I was like, oh no, it'll be an adventure, like it'll be fine. She was like, okay, if you're sure. And I was just like, just help pay for some of the fuel or something like that, or just, yeah. So I did it. So what time did you leave?
I left at about 7:30.
In the evening?
Yeah. Didn't get to Edinburgh till about 2:30 in the morning.
Then what did you do when you got there?
Picked her up and started driving back straight away.
Do you think that was a smart thing to have done?
At the time, like probably about 3 hours into it, I thought it was a bad idea, but I had the best time, so it was a great adventure. She slept pretty much the whole way back. She said she wasn't going to because she didn't want to be rude, but I was just like, just sleep. All I'm doing is driving, so there's not much else I can do. So we end up driving down to Reading to drop off the car to then get a train into London. But we realised about halfway down the country, we weren't going to make the tour. So I diverted and drove straight to Canterbury to go to the cathedral. And then we drove down to Dover to see the White Cliffs. And then dropped the car off in Guildford to get the train into London.
So I guess at that point, you've already been in the car for, what?
I've been driving
12 hours or more.
Yeah, I think over the whole weekend, I drove for at least 15, 16 hours.
So what's another 2 or 3 to Canterbury? Or
Exactly. Car made it.
Look, you should never let anyone tell you how to live your life. But did anyone know where you were? Did you tell anyone?
Yeah, James knew. The guy who I was sat up here with before I left. He checked in on me like halfway up, and then he was like, he just kept saying to me, if you get any issue with the car, just let me know and I'll come get you. I was
Fucking hell. I've kind of reserved myself to the fact I'm just an observer in your life now.
Like I decided January I was just going to write it off and just enjoy it because work's usually quiet anyway. So I was just like, I'm just going to do stuff. And like when I sat up here, I was just like, I'm not going to let a storm ruin my weekend.
Do you reckon there's a line between like being impulsive and like doing lots of stuff and like being not maybe reckless, but like,
oh yeah, it was slightly
you're going
reckless.
to burn out because you do this a lot with your work, with jiu-jitsu.
It's trying to find the balance, and I overdo it.
You get something in your head, and then you go super hard, too much, and then you're like, I'm ill, I'm tired.
Yeah, and then I'm just like dying. But no, I absolutely loved it. There wasn't not one thing I would change about the weekend though.
All right.
So like, it was good. I was tired, but it was good.
And you made it to London eventually?
Yeah. Because I was a day late, the hotel said I was a no-show. So I was potentially, by the time I got to the hotel, it was about 12. So I was potentially going back to Guildford to sleep in my car. But he luckily managed to sort it out for the night.
You could ring him and just let him know.
I didn't think of that.
No, because you've been in the car driving, hadn't slept for like 2 days.
But it was great. Loved it. Walked around London on Sunday, through Westminster, Waterloo, and then Harrison gave me a recommendation for somewhere to get a roast on Sunday.
Nice.
So then I think I left Sunday at about 11 to drive home. Was too tired, so I just slept in a lay-by and then went straight to work.
You got to be careful.
Well, that was the thing. Like the weather was really bad on Sunday, and I didn't want to.
At least you slept in a lay. Like you chose to sleep.
Yeah,
that's a good choice.
Yeah. I chose because the weather was bad. The roads were flooded coming back from Guildford.
Yeah,
I thought Guildford just had an issue with water, but it was actually.
Most of my family live there, so you could have stayed with them. Actually, yeah, when it gets bad, it does get bad there.
Yeah, the roads were just completely flooded.
Yeah, you can't go into town. Like the River Way, there's actually there's a church on the way into town with a plaque that's got a line where like the worst ever flood has been.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's like probably about, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Halfway back, I think I was just like, weather's not great. I'm tired, so I just pulled over and slept, which was fun.
You're learning. You're making
safe.
You're making choices.
Yeah, I'm being safe. After a long drive over the weekend, I was being safe.
And so did she... So where does this girl live then?
Mexico City.
Okay. So she's gone back to Mexico City with whatever random stuff you picked up when you drove her to the biggest shipping port in the country.
Yes.
Did she tell you why she wanted to go to the coast?
The White Cliffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went to Dover.
Yeah, and walked along the White Cliffs, like an hour's walk.
All right.
Saw the port. Didn't go to the port.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then went and grabbed some food.
Didn't have any extra bags or anything like that.
No extra bags.
I still don't trust her. Still don't trust her. We'll see.
But no, it was all good.
Cool. So how are you like on a out of 100 then?
Like 90 again. I think that's what I said last time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I'm trying to keep it up.
Nice.
But I'm also now, was it the 31st today? Or was it 30th?
31st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is where I go back to work.
Okay.
I'm getting back to work. I've got a full wrap downstairs to finish. And I've got a bunch of other stuff booked in. So
You've had your fun.
yeah, I've had my fun.
I'll get back to work.
Yeah. January was written off and now I'm back to trying to get into a routine and eating healthy.
Nice.
So
Cool.
that's where I'm at.
Cool, man. And it's, in case you haven't already noticed, it's only me and John this week. Mason's doing dad stuff. Life of a new dad to a new baby is very stressful and relentless. So he's got lots of bits and pieces. So we thought, well, we tried to record on Tuesday. It didn't really happen. And then we said, let's do it today. Mason had stuff on, so no Mason, but
Got to keep the ball rolling.
Exactly. We'll cope.
Yeah.
We'll be all right. We started the discussion last week. We've had quite a lot of interaction, actually.
Yeah.
And I said, actually, it'd be good not to record on Tuesday because it gives extra time
for some people
to get in touch.
Yeah.
So we're trying to work out which days of the week to release a podcast and track one, because obviously if we release on a Monday, that's not a lot of time if we then track the next episode on a Tuesday for people to like get in touch or talk about what's been spoken, if people have opinions or whatever. So
maybe we put the question out there to the listeners what day they would like to have the podcast come out.
If you have a schedule you like if you tend to listen to things over the weekend, or actually you'd like something to listen on your commute during the week, that's all good for us to know. The audience in general is mostly Newbury BJJ people, but not just that. So it would be interesting, actually. So yeah, definitely let us know about that. That can be an ongoing thing. We can always adjust it. So
yeah, just finding what works for us.
Yeah. But we touched on last week, basically, Mason said he didn't think that NoGi Jiu-Jitsu was a thing. Like, the earth is flat.
Yeah.
The moon's not there. There's no such thing as birds.
Yep.
They're all just surveillance drones.
Yep.
All that stuff. Mason said all that stuff, and then he said,
but we just cut out that bit.
Yeah. And he said, NoGi Jiu-Jitsu isn't a real thing. And what he meant was that people get really kind of twitcho if they only do NoGi. Yeah. Like, you wouldn't get a gi on me, like, that's really shit and blah, blah, blah. Whereas people who train in the gi don't have as much of a kind of a vitriolic mentality towards NoGi people. I mean, there's the stereotypes, isn't there, that people training the gi are more stuffy and traditional and stuff, and people who train NoGi are just smoking weed and just scooching on their butts the whole time. But
attacking your ankles.
Yeah, but I think some people had opinions. So John has access to the Instagram account, whereas I do not. So I don't know.
So we did get one voice note.
Yeah.
And also another person, Vic, has wrote a message, which is quite long.
Do you want to play me the voice note?
You'll probably have to read it, because
that's fine.
I'm terrible at reading.
That's right. Do you want to play me the voice note though?
Right. So let me get my volume up. Let's make sure I'm off the speaker downstairs. There we go.
45-year-old black belt
This is just like the tapes.
Why it is that most of his students call him out when they're dressed in NoGi kit, while he's clearly dressed in the gi. I wonder why. Help me out, you idiots. Why do these youngsters call me out for NoGi matches at the end of open mats when I'm in the gi? Can't get my head round it. I lose sleep at night.
So he didn't state his name.
No.
He's just a 45-year-old
45 degree black belt.
He's a 45-year-old black belt who we recognise the voice of.
I feel like that age might be a little bit low.
Yeah, do you reckon?
Yeah.
Spiritually.
Yeah, closer to 50, I reckon.
Yeah. He's old on the inside.
Yeah.
He's an old spirit. And weak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty simple answer to that.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a stab?
I reckon you can go first.
Because people do this to me as well. I don't know if they do it to you as well.
Maybe.
So I try not to ever take a rest round.
No.
I think that's also a big part of jiu-jitsu. Is like it should still be good when you're absolutely knackered.
Yeah. Like survival mode.
Yeah, and so my style of sparring does change a bit towards the end of an open mat because I'm knackered, and depending on who's come up to me or we've had, depends on what kind of an open mat you've had. If you've had lots of competitive people coming up to you and being like, go, go, go. But it's, they might not consciously be doing it, but I think people do it because, of course, they want a piece at, they don't necessarily want to be able to say, oh, I tapped a black belt or I tapped a brown belt or whatever. But I think if not consciously, definitely only just below the surface, subconsciously, they want to test themselves against other people, but against whatever the perceived experience is. Generally, the darker your belt is, the older you are, so the more tired you are of everything, certainly at the end of an open mat. So I think people do that, and the younger competitive guys generally don't train in the gi as much.
Yeah. They see the NoGi as cool.
I've had quite competitive NoGi rounds with some of those guys at the end of an open mat, and then every now and then they'll be wearing a gi, and it might be the other way around. Like, so you might have to go up to them. They probably wouldn't volunteer.
No.
If it was gi sparring, let's say, they might not then, or they definitely don't necessarily volunteer to come up to you. But I've had some rounds with those similar, not that I know specifically who he's talking about, but those kinds of things where we'll spar in the gi and it'll be very different. And I've had kind of people, it's that whole thing of sometimes you're the nail, sometimes you're the hammer.
Yeah.
Where they are very much a nail because you can implement things because you're either not tired or you've got a gi on. And yeah, so I think it comes from, they probably have not as much control of the dog of the ego, right?
Yeah.
Their ego dog is less in control. And so things like that, they probably can't even help themselves from saying, I'll have a pop at the end of open mat because he looks fucked. And he's just had a round with...
He's just grabbed his Zimmer
whoever
frame.
the biggest, strongest purple belt is.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know if people do it on purpose, but I certainly think they don't.
Yeah, people...
It's certainly not just coincidence.
No, and people aren't going to, at the end of an open mat, look around for a roll and then see like someone like a purple belt fresh, like looking like they're fresh, use like no energy. They're going to look for the person who's looking like they're a bit tired, a bit sweaty, and looking like they don't want the last round. A lot of time.
So I don't know if anyone's done that similar kind of game to you.
Maybe a couple of people like see me absolutely knackered when I've like got no cardio and I've been eating shit for the past like month.
Yeah.
They'll see me like that and be like, yeah, this is my time to get John. But most of the time, I don't think I'm paying much attention really. I'm just like in my own little world and I'm not realizing people may be doing it
because I'm just training. I do tend to, like, if I come to an open mat in the gi and someone asks me to roll no-gi, a lot of the time I'll only be doing the gi. So I'll just say, no, I'm only rolling in the gi today. But occasional person, like someone like Conrad, I'll always roll with him because he's such a good roll. I absolutely love it. But he's not the sort of person who does that, like, call out when someone's tired.
No, there's no sneak attack.
No.
But there wouldn't be with any purple belts, which is partly because we know them so well in terms of we've all been sparring together. We've all been having rolls for such a long time.
I feel like I might actually do it towards Harrison and he might do it towards me. Because, like, when we see each other a little bit tired, it's like, oh, it's time to, like, smash each other.
Yeah.
And then we sort of push each other. And I think it's also a way of, like, pushing us to burn more and work harder.
Yeah, but you guys have a mutual understanding of that, don't you?
Yeah, we're both around the same sort of way. I've always thought he's about my age, but he's actually like 5 or 6 years older. Doesn't look it. Looks younger than me. But no, I love rolling with John. He's got a good pressure and good technique, and he's always a good roll. So anytime I see him tired, I'll take it.
Let's go.
Yeah, and vice versa.
I guess the other thing it could be, to be fair, is that if this person who sent in the message is the person we all know it is, to be honest, I don't think he would care if he was either anonymous or not. But if you're either a coach or head coach of somewhere, people are like speculatively.
Yeah.
People want you to recognise them and how they're doing.
Yeah.
So they may try harder or try to hedge their bets. That's not really the right word, but like they might try to leverage the fact that they can appear better because you're tired and at the end of an open mat and in a gi. Oh, someone's ringing.
Yeah, sorry about that. That's the business phone.
Do you want to get it? We can pause.
No, I'll just put it on silent.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
Business schmizness. It's not actually the end of the month yet, so you're not going back to work yet.
I don't even know why that...
You said you're starting going back to work next week.
Exactly.
So fuck it.
Fuck them.
Why not just go to Scotland?
I don't know
now?
why it rang though.
Just
both the phones are on silent.
Well, why don't you just go up to Scotland, go get some drugs from some girl, take them to Dover.
I didn't have any drugs.
Don't go to sleep.
There's no one in Scotland I know anymore.
You don't even drink caffeine, so you would have just been doing that.
I had a Monster.
Oh God, that's a lot of caffeine.
Yeah, I had 2 of them.
Did you shit yourself?
No.
Oh, that would make me
not yet.
Shit myself. I can't smell anything.
On the
like
way
that.
up there, I did have.
I'd potentially shitting myself
because I just drove for the 7 hours all the way there. I did pull over for a wee in Scotland, but I forgot there was a storm. So
did you only have a 1 wee the whole time?
Yeah, I just drove literally.
There's something wrong with you.
No
I swear
joke.
To God, there's
I just
something seriously wrong.
I had music full blast, just singing all my way up there. I don't know how she fell asleep on the way back because I was singing on the way back, but she managed to. But I was just singing, and that kept me just going.
Have you got
I get sometimes into these moods where
you've got to have something wrong with you, like something wrong with your metabolism.
Autism.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too.
I've got a bit of everything, probably.
Metabolism. Anyway, what were we saying? Yeah.
We've gone off track.
Oh, tangent. It was the bloody business phone. It got me. Yeah, they're trying to prove themselves and they are putting their A game. They're trying to show you their A game because they think you will judge them on their A game. When quite often it's not someone's A game that gets you stripes or belts. It's often like there's a reason why when you get your blue belt, what's your reward?
Yeah.
You get chucked in Shark Tank. So that's where it should come through. If you're one of those people who goes up to black belts or brown belts or purple belts when they're fucked at the end of an open mat because you want to either test your steel or demonstrate your progress, that's not like those not unnecessarily negative.
No.
Try asking them for a roll when you're knackered.
But also, why are the colour belts knackered at the end?
Well, because everyone's coming for them.
True. There we go. That solved that question.
Coming in hot. But then arguably the colour belts should be able to just deal with that. That's a big
from the technique. Do you think sometimes they go after like head coaches or coaches and stuff like that to test themselves because they believe that their coaches should absolutely dominate them? Like a hierarchy. Do you think some people look at it that way as well, or not?
Maybe.
But then everyone's on their own journey.
Yeah, and also you don't know who you're rolling with is protecting an injury.
Exactly, yeah.
Might have not had a lot of sleep that night. Might have had a stressful day because they have a job and you still live with your parents or something.
Yeah, or driving to Scotland.
Driving to Scotland and not having slept for 2 days or whatever.
Yeah.
So, which is not just like, this sounds really like, kind of like we're really grumpy old men, which is not true, because that's what will keep the older people training good.
Yeah.
So that's a natural part of it too. There's an element of any group of people or animals, there's going to be, certainly amongst the men, that's a sweeping generalization, but it's true. There's an element of competition, and anywhere there's hierarchy, there's going to be some ups and downs. And me and this is going to sound bad, but Catherine and I were talking about like styles of parenting the other day, and it was like, sometimes, you know, where you see like a puppy and it's mum or dad, and they can be like screwing about, and then they'll go too far. Or just a pack of dogs where there's a hierarchy,
they like push it,
and then someone needs a correction, and it looks quite aggressive, but it's because they love them and they want to set them a boundary, especially if...
This makes a lot of sense to why I smother Mason so much.
Yeah, because he needs to know where he is in the pack.
He just nabs at my ankles, nab. So I just have to sit on him.
The fact you teabag him when he's unconscious has nothing to do with it. Yeah, and sometimes, depending on what you're trying to teach them or how strong of an emotional response to the lesson you want them to have, like if your child was to run out into the street, into oncoming traffic, that to me personally requires quite a firm scolding. I'm not saying
because of the consequences that could happen from
a very negative connection to that experience, because it's such a bad, dangerous thing to do.
Whereas if you just said to them, "Oh, don't do that," like it's not a good idea, they probably think, "Oh, it's..." Yeah. Whereas if you like go ham on them, not hit them, but they'll get the idea, oh, I really shouldn't do that.
Yeah. Whereas you'd not have the same response to them, like, I don't know, sticking a pen in their mouth or something. Like that's not the end of the world.
So this is your teaching style for Tuesdays.
Yes, I'm going to say that's not...
when they do a technique wrong, that's not how you do it.
I can grab them by the scruff of the neck.
Pick them up.
Say, no, that's very naughty. No.
Get out.
No, but I think there's an element of that. Any group where there's hierarchy, the younger ones and the less experienced ones...
Always try and prod.
Yeah, they're going to try to push the boundaries to work out where the boundaries are. And this is something that came up a little while ago, which we haven't really discussed, is should people be allowed to request comp rounds?
Yeah.
Do you think?
That's an interesting one, because someone said to me, when was it? Tuesday, came to me and was like, do you want a comp round at the end? Like last round, I was like, yeah, let's go for it. Which I think is a good thing. Because
you can always say no.
Yeah, exactly. And it's being open to be able to ask it.
But if you think, actually, I'm in really good nick at the minute. Yeah. Let's do it. And just prepare your ego for anything that might happen. Because obviously they can be trying their best as well.
Yeah.
So there might be an element of that. Like someone's asking for a boundary in the term of like, I'd like you to do your best because I'd like to experience it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, especially you and I, fucking around.
I don't think we've ever had a serious role.
Certainly not with each other.
No.
Because
even when we competed.
No.
The open one, that was still fucking around. Like,
we were still chatting shit to each other at actual competitions, on and off our mats.
And Catherine was also chatting shit to us.
Yeah. So whether we're competing against each other or other people, there's an element of So, yeah. I don't know if that's answered the question or not.
We went on a real big tangent, but I think it partially answered it.
Yeah.
Should we get the other question?
Yeah.
I'll pass you the phone.
Has there been any other correspondence on the gi versus no gi debate?
This is
a big one.
View. Yeah.
We all have limited time. Some of us have to juggle quite a bit to be able to make it to class. Typical class is you drill for a bit, then you have roll. My issue with gi jiu-jitsu is the snooze fest it can be if we are in the average area of skill mismatch. If one person is significantly better, there is progress and a submission. If both people are equally skilled, it's very technical and there's action for both parties. When the skill gap is average, people in the gi often get to a dominant position or established grips, and then it's like having to watch paint dry. They don't want to progress because of fear of losing the position. In a 5-minute round, having 1 or 2 positions is painful, practically wasting both of your time, the person maintaining and the person stuck. Look no further than people at IBJJF stalling to win on an advantage and then ripping open a gi. Then again, they like point up to Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm number one. And you're like, yeah, sure. Yeah. Then again, I don't know nothing about nothing. Give me athletic scrambles, variability and quick thinking over some of the gi snooze fests any day. Interesting. Oh, I thought this was someone else with the same name. Do you reckon he'd mind if we said who this is?
We can say it and then I'll message him and then we can bleep it. So this is Vic, who owns Battle Soap, who sponsors me. So that's his response.
Do you reckon he wants to sponsor the podcast? Vic,
we put it out there.
I would like. Yeah. So what's your take on that?
I think it's a pretty fair point. Especially with what you said about like the different levels in the gi when they're fighting. Yeah. I need to really think about it a little bit more.
This is the issue with not having, when we read something out when we're actually on the podcast.
Yeah.
You need time to cook.
I need time to really think about what I'm going to say.
So I'm aware that I spoke too much of the other one and you didn't get a chance to speak much. So what I'll do is I'm
trying to compute exactly what I want to say on it.
So I'll give a bit of an answer.
You give a little bit of answer, I'll read it as well.
Yeah. So in general, and this is the issue, and we spoke about this last time about the fact that often gi jiu-jitsu isn't much to spectate because it's very small incremental stuff, and often people do get stuck in a position and you stay there because the gi is so good for controlling someone. And I've had this, and I'm sure lots of people get this when they go to any kind of competition, where you'll just get stuck somewhere. Someone will get a dominant spot on you, you'll get stuck, and you'll be trying all your escapes, but they're so set on not letting you out that you just end up stuck there, and that's really annoying. I think everyone who's gone to a competition certainly has I think kind of any belt would agree with that, whereas it's easier to escape when you aren't in a gi and there's more of a scramble. It tends to be more of a dynamic because you aren't quite as stuck. I definitely agree with the skill gap thing, and I think it's also stylistic. So I don't think they would really mind. I don't even know if they really listen, but a lot of the Brazilian guys who train...
we've got a huge Brazilian audience.
Oh, do we?
No.
No. We could. But we've got a few Brazilian guys who have trained with us. Some of them stuck around. Some of them have gone back to Brazil now. But and there's a style. I don't know if it's because they train with each other outside of the gym, because they all are kind of friends with each other too. But there's a style that I've experienced with them and other people, but where it's quite a conservative.
More noticeable with them.
Yeah, it's quite a conservative style of jiu-jitsu, which in some ways is good because they're so conscious of the positioning that they just don't want to give up anything. And then you're there like trying to sweep or trying to do something just to engage the action, and it's like no. So it's a bit like when you've got something to do and you come up with an idea and someone's like, no, that won't work. No, that won't work. No. And then you're like, okay, why don't you suggest something? And they're like, oh, I don't know. So it's a bit like that because you're like, okay, we can stay here because I'm trying to make the effort.
Yeah.
But they're equally not trying to pass your guard, let's say, to the extent that you could sweep them. So you end up in this real stalemate, and when actually you need to give up grips or something. If you're in a stalemate, or if you're trying to sub someone and it's not on, it comes to a point where you have to just think, let's just keep it going. Because what's the point of sparring? Why do you roll? So that could be part of the reason why someone is, it's really boring, but if someone thinks I'm going to roll today and practice getting to the mount and staying there, that's fair enough to have that as your objective. It just means probably not a lot of people are going to ask you to roll next time because it's fucking boring, right? And that's what competition pushes people into. Yeah. And this is partly why big jiu-jitsu shows like CJI and the ones that are trying to tweak the rule set to reward the action and get people to really make something happen. And again, they're all no-gi.
Yeah. And that's like, CGI did a great job on that because like, I think one of the most exciting matches was Cade versus, what's the brothers called?
Tackett.
Yeah, Tackett, yeah.
Non-stop.
That was like crazy, like non-stop going, just pressure, passing, takedowns, just non-stop every round.
Constant.
Yeah, constant. And there was no resetting because of the walls as well. Mm-hmm. So it was just constant movement. It was just brilliant to watch.
However, we have been, and they're not as often, but we have seen entertaining matches in gi.
Yeah.
But they're on shows like that. Like the gi matches of Polaris tend to be quite good.
Yeah. I always find like Tynan Delpra, for example, exciting to watch because he's always looking for the submission and the finish, and I just love his style of passing as well. So I find it quite exciting. But you do get it's a lot more present in the gi of the whole stalemate thing and just trying to win by an advantage and stuff like that.
You have to.
It's a lot easier to do it in the gi.
Yeah, you have to choose not to.
Yeah.
And when you're rolling like that, really our objective is to be learning.
Yeah.
And no one's really getting much out of that.
No.
And I completely understand it. And you have to kind of sometimes give up a bit of space to try something.
Yeah.
And it is annoying when people don't do that because then you both are essentially wasting time. Most people pay to be there. Yeah. When you have a stalematey round, admittedly, that's only a small part of your sparring session, training session, your open mat. But you're like, well, that was a waste of my time.
Yeah.
But then to the other person, maybe it's not.
And I guess it comes down to your style because, like, for me, I find it exciting in gi and no gi. I have a great time in both, and I'm pushing the pace in both. I think it's easier for people of a lower rank to have a more exciting match in the no-gi than it is in the gi
because someone with more experience with the grips and stuff, it just can be really frustrating and annoying. But whereas in the NoGi, it's more dynamic in movement, and there's a lot more that can happen, I think, in the sense of movement, like slipping out and a scramble to the back or something, because there's no grips. You can just slip and slide everywhere.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, because I've been it's interesting because I've been getting. So I've always had a really love-hate relationship with the gi.
Does it come down to the whole grips, or is it the chokes and stuff that can happen?
I think it's the gi makes it really obvious if you're the hammer or the nail. You're very much either or. Whereas a no-gi match can feel more balanced, even when there's a skill discrepancy in between you. Especially if you're, say, a purple belt or a brown belt or even a blue belt, like just, and you're rolling with the white belt and you aren't in a gi, but you're not doing any leg locks, let's say, because that would. So I know it's kind of not a thing anymore that the white belts don't do leg locks. That's not really a thing now because it's become such a big part of the game. But I tend to not to do it to people if I know that's not a part of their game.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's kind of unfair because you're just doing something and they're like, look, I don't really know what's going on here. I'm just going to tap and I'm not having a good time anymore.
Yeah, I need to apologise to someone for that.
You can do it now if you want.
Yeah, you know who you are. I'm sorry for footlocking you like 5 times.
Name names, mate.
No, it's okay.
Names.
They'll know who they are. It's fine. They might not want to be known for it. So
I think what this all comes down to is jiu-jitsu is people interacting with other people.
Yeah.
And
everyone's got different opinions and different ways.
And different agendas.
Yeah.
And I think, because I don't feel like that when I'm sparring in the gi, when I'm having rolling gi in our club, I don't feel like that. But I have felt like that.
I would say I've been in the gi, I have noticed more commonly people getting frustrated.
Being on the other side of it.
Yeah, like the person I'm rolling with, I can see like their facial expression or just the way they act, they're getting frustrated. Compared to NoGi, where I don't feel like I experience it as much of people getting frustrated. Yeah,
and I think because we are quite experienced, and certainly some of the more senior students in our club, when we were in a gi especially, I think we don't get that feeling stuck type of thing because it's up to us to control it.
Yeah.
And so because you and I don't just get somewhere and stay there and get stuck and stay stuck, you and I are steering the role a lot of the time. So again, which comes down to Vic's thing of like the skill gap. If there's a huge, not huge, that's a bit bad. But like if there's a bigger skill gap, the skilled person can control a lot of it, and they can, depending on how much of a dick they are, can make sure you're both having a good time. Because you can do your own thing and practice stuff and still get people to tap, and they can still enjoy it. Or if you get into mount and just stay there and then like crank an Americana on because you're really big, people aren't going to enjoy that quite as much. And so I think a lot of it comes down to the club you're training at and the people you're training with as well.
I felt like at the moment for me in the gi, I'm trying to invent a new style, which I call lapel bullshit, which a lot of people are experiencing, and it has its hiccups at the moment, but overall I feel like I'm getting somewhere with it, and I think that's also why people look so frustrated.
You're going to do an instructional?
Should do. I need to play with it a bit more, but it's probably the most frustrating thing I've ever experienced when someone does it back to me. It's very annoying.
Yeah.
And it works well.
And you can't do that if you're not in a gi.
No. Well, I've started trying to do it a little bit with no gi grips. It's a little bit possible, but not exactly the same. But there's things that can go over to NoGi.
So to add to this, our head coach Bernie also messaged about this actually as a.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Or is that the message he mentioned?
I've updated my stuff so I can't see it. Can you get your WhatsApp up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so another take on the gi no-gi debate from Bernie. No-gi is the newer kid on the block, and as the new kid, they have to state their claim, often bad mouthing or failing to acknowledge the past and the relevant history, all the whilst blowing their own trumpet. It's the natural order of things and always annoying. Both are complex in their own ways, grips versus entries being the areas I feel are the key differences. So we'll come back to that. No-gi generally favours more athleticism, gi favours patience. As to what's more applicable to real combat, people tend to wear clothes on the street, so I feel training in the gi is probably more realistic unless you live in California or Thailand, which a lot of people who train jiu-jitsu probably do, live in California or Thailand, but then there's also the rest of the world. There's a bit on the end there that I think he didn't mean to write.
What was that? We can bleep it if...
He said also Mason was very good at jiu-jitsu today.
That must be horseshit.
Which
he must have spelled my name wrong.
I think some autocorrect is getting a little out of control there.
Yeah.
And that's a really good point, is the grips versus the entries.
Yeah.
And I think this is partly why no-gi is interesting to watch, and the skill gap doesn't feel as big because it's you find the skill in transitioning between stuff, the entries, because there's fewer submissions. You've basically got variations of strangles without an arm, just like head and arm, strangles, chokes of any variation. So either arm in, arm out, and the joint locks, either straight or twisting. Obviously taking out cranks or smothers or like the slightly more off-piste stuff, there's fewer stuff that can make you tap. And so you have to get there differently. And I think that's probably, it's a bit like you driving to Scotland, right? You had to take a long way round to meet a girl in London. Right? And I think that's a version of it, because you can't necessarily just get your grips and crank it. You've got to get another way to it. And that might be why people find it more interesting. But then it's a bit like the barrier to entry to being really in depth on the technicalities of the gi is higher. You have to commit lots of time to it and be good at it, but you can't get good at something without not being very good at it first, and that sucks.
And do you believe the gi is more realistic to the street than, or more effective to the street than no-gi? I think they both are, obviously, but gi's going to be a bit more effective anyway, because there is opportunities for grips.
I think this is
unless you're on the beach.
I don't think this is a necessary thing to
need to discuss,
because if you train any kind of grappling, you're going to have a major advantage. Or if you train striking, if you train anything, you're going to have major advantage over someone who is just drunk in a pub or something. But
they're both realistic because they're grappling,
and you're doing it against a properly resisting opponent. I think the real question is how you train. Not are you in a gi or not.
Are you training jiu-jitsu as a sport or as a self-defense?
And I think how it's taught and how you train it should be different for those two things. I think this is a topic for a different
This could be the next one.
Because I got strong opinions on this.
What we should do is, if we put it out now, voice notes to our Instagram on your opinions on this topic in general.
Yeah, so grappling for self-defense, if you think gi versus no gi, if gi is superior for self-defense or no gi.
And if training for self-defense rather than sport makes a big difference to it as well.
Yeah, I think that's quite a good one for next time. We'll get some takes on it, some opinions, and we can discuss, I think, rather than getting into it now.
Yeah.
And also, if you've got thoughts on the gi versus no gi debate, I think that's an ongoing thing. And it kind of just comes down to taste, preference, a whole bunch of other things, right?
And it can also come down to, I guess, how you're brought into jiu-jitsu. Because if like you came into jiu-jitsu and straight away into gi classes and you just couldn't get the hang of the grips and people just constantly gripping you, yanking you down, then you went to a no-gi class and then suddenly none of that exists, you're going to take, majority of people will take the easier route in, not saying no-gi's easier, but off the bat, I think it's easier to learn than gi. Would you say? It's easier to get your head around?
Yeah, I think
because you're not dealing with the grips, you've got more movement available.
Yeah, I think there's fewer...
We're going down another rabbit hole now.
Well, it's still kind of relevant. There's fewer literally moving parts.
Yeah.
It's a simpler machine to operate because there's just not as much stuff going on. It doesn't necessarily mean that either one is greater or lesser, and you can always go into greater depths in either one. You can always do that. But I think it's a bit like snowboarding versus skiing. I think it's like, because snowboarding, you're only dealing with the one item, the one
that's true.
thing. I think it's easier to get kind of good quicker compared to skiing. But I think in terms of being able to tackle a technical obstacle or very technical route, I think you'd prefer to be on skis. There's a reason mountaineers ski.
Rather
Some
than
people
snowboard.
split board and stuff like that, but you ski because the ability for technicality goes up further. And I think that's probably similar with the gi versus no gi debate. I do think, depending on who you're training with and how you're training, no gi is more accessible because it's less frustrating and people can't tie you up. But then you just, I think we all need to get good first of all, and people just do what you like.
Yeah.
But I think
there's nothing wrong with just training the gi. There's nothing wrong with just training no gi.
No, but I think you have to have given each a fair crack.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think
you
personally,
can't just
I
like
enjoy
do a
them
couple
both.
of classes and then be like, oh no, I'm only going to do this one.
And if you want to be a complete grappler, I think there's very arguable benefits to doing them both.
Yeah.
Specifically, and then you can mix and match techniques in between them. Much like if you want to be just generally good at kind of combat, you have to have done some kind of striking as well.
Yeah.
There's no, like, you can't expect to out jiu-jitsu someone who's also a really fucking good boxer with jiu-jitsu. I think if you want to be good at the whole, you have to look at all the parts independently. If you want to be good at grappling, you have to do both of those parts independently.
And a bit of wrestling.
But if you don't care, I mean, that's the other element that we haven't even touched upon. But again, that's no-gi grappling, but then look at Sambo. So it's like, just do what you like. In your life, you've only got so much time.
Exactly.
Do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
It's not about the destination. It's about
the journey there.
The journey there.
Yeah, exactly. That's why this weekend was so great.
Join us again next week, kids. I think we should stop there. I think we've rambled on for quite long enough. If you've got opinions on the gi versus no gi debate and grappling styles and opinions on training for self-defense. Either send us preferably voice notes if you
Because then we can play it.
Yeah. But if you would rather not, by all means, send a text or a message to the Juge Idiots on Instagram.
Well, I think what we should say is voice notes will play, and then text will read out, but we'll take it as you want to be kept anonymous.
If you sign a text with your actual name at the end of it, we'll know you would like us to read your name.
Yeah, that's probably the best way.
If you just do it and not put your name in the actual body of the text, we'll keep you anonymous.
And same with the voice notes, I guess.
Yeah,
Say
yeah.
anonymous. Well, don't say your name if you want to stay anonymous, but say your belt. I think will be good.
Yeah, like the
Shoy roll clips.
Yeah, and that's cool.
I think that'd be good.
If you want to, still give us your age, and your belt. And if you would like to tell us roughly your weight as well, that's also quite interesting.
Yeah, that would be good.
Right? Because opinions will vary.
Depending on size.
Yeah, you can say, like, give us a more of a category than a number, right?
Yeah.
Heavyweight. Or, I don't know what I am, but I reckon I'm a...
Because some of those Shoy roll clips were amazing. Some of the people that wrote in and said their part on jiu-jitsu and stuff.
Yeah, no, if you haven't checked that out, we'll stick a link to it on our Instagram.
Definitely.
Because that's really
it's good.
Yeah. Right.
Right, I think that's it.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, driver.
3, 2, 1.
Notice how that was perfect.
Last week it wasn't.
Exactly.
3, 2, 1.
So what? But
Oh,
so what's
I
different
was
now?
fucking ruined.
Mason's not here.
Oh yeah.
That's why he's still blue belt.
3, 2, 1. Oh.